she was going to. I said, you're not throwing up physical food. You didn't eat all day. You fast on the day you drink ayahuasca. You were throwing up the bile of your life. You were throwing up the stink that you carried around from when you were 5 years old, 4 years old, when your mom slapped you or you didn't understand why, or when somebody broke up with you and you didn't think it was fair. All that weight, that's what you're throwing up. You're not really throwing up food, of course. So she said, I don't care. I'm a lady. I won't drink again. Julio said, Peter, let me ask my son, Jairo. Jairo was told to go out and collect a certain plant. He brought it back. Julio cooked it up, and he said to the lady, he put it in agua to the anti-cane liquor, and she wasn't a drinker. And he said, you must drink this, an ounce in the morning and an ounce at night until this 3-liter bottle is empty. Well, we got back to Iquitos. I was thrilled the woman hadn't died. A week later, she was standing on the street kicking me, reminding me how much she hated the trip with me. And then I sent her off to Brazil. And 6 months later, I get the first of several phone calls over the next several years saying, I still hate the trip. I'm in Italy. I'm riding motor scooters in the mountains. 6 months after that, she called to say, I still hate you, and I don't forget that. I'm in Greece on a yacht, having a great time. Not any good from you, thanks. And that went on for years, and I hope she's still somewhere in this world. That's healing. That's magic.
And she still hates you. Folks, I want to remind you, 888-919-2355 or the chat room. We're here to take questions. Madalena, you've been sitting here so patiently. Do you think your dad's weird?
Can I pass on this question?
Pass on the question? No.
Okay, no. Not at all. I do not think he is weird.
So you're 14 years old, and you believe this nonsense?
Absolutely. It really depends on how you grow up. You have these children who grow up in a home where they have, certain religious views or political views, and they don't even know politics, and they just believe it because this is what they grew up with. This is what had shaped their lives. This has been a major base, one of the main bases of my life, and it doesn't affect me like someone else. It does affect me. It has shaped my life, like I said, but it doesn't come as a surprise to me. It's a usual, everyday kind of thing.
Well, something we've not talked about, and that folks actually who are listening tonight might be interested in. Peter wrote an incredible book. It's actually called Ayahuasca in My Blood. 25 years of medicine and dreaming. And some of the listeners probably have read it. And those who haven't, I recommend you find a copy of it because it is incredible. But where I'm going with this, Madalena, is I know that you have seen some of the clients who go to Peru with your father usually in January or February, and then again in the summer in June or July, because he does these tours every year to help people, to do the medicine, to help them, like this woman with cancer that we were talking about. But people probably would trust you maybe more than they trust me or trust your dad even, because you are an unbiased observer here. Tell me, what have you seen? How have you seen people been helped?
What have I seen? Oh my gosh. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been asked a lot of questions, and I've, have gotten answers to a lot of my own. I can't say that. Darn it, I don't.
You're so tough.
All right, Kelsey. This woman was a very, very nice woman. Her life has been very scattered for most of it. So she comes over to my dad's house, to our house, for about a week. And this actually frightened my brother. When he had first seen her, she had been sluggish. Her eyes had seemed glazed over, and she was just very spaced out. And toward the end of the week, my brother had come to see her after a lot of her healing, and she was a totally different character. She had been sitting up, her eyes had been dilated, she seemed very focused. It wasn't just maybe someone had gotten sleep, like she had, or had eaten or something like that. It was as if there had been a small life change in that week.
So you actually think then that the practice of being a shaman, but we've already established your dad's not a shaman, but you're saying that the practice of being able to reach into that energy level, if you will, changed her life?
Yes.
Without medicine.
And there we're back to that point. The medicine allows you to learn how to open the door, but it doesn't remain necessary once you know where the door is.
Right.
Okay. Well, I see that we've got a caller on hold, and we're going to try out the modern technology here that has nothing to do with shamanism. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. What's your question?
I just want to say one thing. My name is Ron Slusher, and I heard you guys mention Carlos Castaneda earlier. And I wanted to let people know that Carlos kind of got found out. He's kind of like been in hiding. And the people he claimed he was doing the drugs with, the peyote and stuff like that, were the Yaquis, who live here in southern Arizona, have a little bitty reservation right next to Tucson. And actually, they were originally from Mexico, and that's where he may have got that connection. And but they were chased out of Mexico, and they were given a reservation here in Arizona. But the Yaquis claim that Carlos did come there just a couple of times, but the main thing was the Yaquis didn't do peyote. That was the Navajos. And then the Navajos were the only ones that did peyote until the mid-18 or late 1800s. And I can't think of the name of the church, but a lot of the tribes in the Southwest started doing peyote along with the Navajos. There was tribes in Texas and other places like that. So I just wanted to clarify that for people, because I'm an old hippie from the 60s myself, and all of us read all those books and stuff like that. Well, we all really got conned, because most of his stuff came from the libraries at USC, where he lived in L.A. And so I just want to call in and clarify that. And your other gentleman there, did he say he was a UFO guy?
No, I guess I'm the UFO guy, because I'm the former NASA scientist, and
have you ever heard of Chuck Clark? You ever heard of Chuck Clark?
Do I personally? No, not right offhand.
Okay. Well, I just happened to buy, a friend of mine gave me a manual he made for Area 51 and S4 in 1998, and I thought maybe one of you guys might have heard of him.
Well, so hopefully, since I know Ken Cherry and the Epic guys here, maybe they'll invite me to come back sometime and talk about UFOs and some other phenomena. But tonight we're talking about shamanism. And Ron, I know that there's a lot of controversy around Carlos Castaneda. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I know personally about that whole phenomena. Even if Carlos Castaneda was a fake, there's some extraordinary psychology there. The guy's pretty bright. Fake or no fake.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that he wasn't going and getting all this sacred stuff from.
No, I get it, and I've been to the jungle, and I have seen some phenomena. And Peter outed me tonight, so I know what it feels like to be out of the closet, I guess, here. But I got to tell you something else, though. There is an extraordinary writer by the name of Teun Mares, Theunmares, who I think is also an extraordinary writer on the subject of shamanism. And of course, there are Harner and there are just a whole lot of folks. My favorite author on the subject, of course, is Peter Gorman, and I've already told you about his book. But what I am seeing here, even with Carlos Castaneda, maybe the specific facts don't jive, and I know a lot of folks have had questions about his doctoral dissertation. And I, as a scientist, was very much a skeptic until I actually went and had maybe a hands-on practicum. But there are some phenomena here that, as a scientist, I can see that maybe it fits technology we don't understand yet. Gee, well, thanks, Ron. I really.
I did a lot of peyote myself and magic mushrooms and stuff like that, and I agree with you that they let you reach out to the other side, and they can teach you. And like the gentleman was saying earlier, you were saying it's pretty hard to abuse them.
Well, Peter has said all along there are drugs you can abuse. People. I'll tell you what. I've never tried cocaine, but I've talked to people who have, and they tell me that the thing about cocaine is that it's so seductive because it promises you that the next time you do it, I'm going to give you something special. The next time you do it, I will give you something special, and you never get there. It's not a plant teacher. Interestingly enough, however, the coca leaf allows you, if you take it when you're in the high Andes, they have a substance called mate de coca, which is tea. It dilates your bronchioles, and you can breathe at altitude. So that's it can be abused or not. But I think the class of teachers that we're talking about here are totally different from heroin or cocaine.
Yeah, well, they've been modified. Get my point? They've been turned into a drug in their pure nature. I believe in them, and I'm a firm believer that God didn't put nothing on the planet that was a mistake.
Isn't that interesting? I think the shaman would agree with you. I have some shaman friends. I write a lot about the Hopis. I've got a blog. I got over 700 entries. I've got tons of videos running on YouTube right now. And I travel around the Southwest recording Native American dances and a lot of other stuff. So I am really kind of up on this. In fact, Big on the show here knows I am too. And that sometimes they have Native American questions, and if I'm in the chat room, they'll always say, "Well, let's ask Ron." Would be me. So I really know what that. Yeah, and I agree. It's just that when you've taken a natural substance and then turn it into a chemical, now it is not still natural. Like chewing on cocoa leaves can be a spiritual thing, or any of that, or smoking peyote or taking peyote. It does. Well, Ron, I appreciate your call, and I hope we can visit again. Peter, we've only got about 14 minutes left here. There's some incredible stories. I've been with you. I'd love to hear the story about, which I thought was pretty funny, about Pasha throwing up in Julio's living room. That didn't seem very civilized. I'd also like to know the story because, again, this shows that we're even though these are funny stories, they show that we're acknowledging, some kind of knowledge outside of the normal spirit. The guy that used to sell his chickens and then step on the board and ruin his life. Okay, so can you share with us a couple more of those things that are actually knowledge that are really hard to understand?
Well, I mean, when I said earlier that traditionally what a curandero does, you come to him or her with your problem. They access another level of reality, see what's wrong, what's disturbed up there, come back with a way to fix that disturbance, which in turn solves the issue here. One of the best, clearest ways to talk about healing ayahuasca was a story that occurred a long time ago with Julio. A fellow came up the river in a canoe. He wasn't from Julio's river, the Ocayacu. He was from a different river. I didn't know him. Julio didn't know him. I mean, it wasn't unusual that I wouldn't, but certainly that Julio didn't know, met the fellow had never been there before. But he'd heard about Julio. And he came in to Julio's little house and his children and his wives, and he demanded that Julio help him. And Julio said, well, all right, you know, what do you want? He said, someone's giving me the evil eye. Someone is doing black magic on me. And Julio said, well, what? And he said, well, because every time I get yucca, you know, yucca is like a potato that grows in the jungle, a starch that grows in the jungle, a tuber, or chickens, I sell them, and then when I sell them, I almost immediately get hurt. I hurt my leg, I hurt my ankle, and then I can't work. And who is doing that to me? Julio said, all right, well, I'll drink some ayahuasca. Julio drank that night, and when he came out, he was laughing. And the fellow wanted to know, what'd you see? What'd you see? And Julio said, well, I saw that every time you sell chickens or yucca, you go with your money to the little cantina in Hanana Herrera, which has 2 wooden steps to go up into it. You get drunk, and on the way out, you fall down, and you hurt yourself, and then you can't work. So what I'm going to suggest, and I'm paraphrasing in a New York sort of way, what I'm going to suggest is you either stop drinking after you make some money, or you fix the bottom step. That's just plain. This is Julio talking to a man he had never seen. Took medicine and saw this is the issue with this man. He needs to fix a step so he doesn't fall down when he's drunk. That's as simple as it gets.
I love that story. I really do. Peter, we've got a question here. It says, how would you compare the experience of using the chemical substance, the pure substance, which has been known as the spirit drug or the spirit molecule, DMT, in its pure form, with ayahuasca?
I would say DMT is a wonderful experience. Very short-lived, very abbreviated. You smoke it, and just like DPT, before you can put the pipe down, you are peaking. And in 15, 20, 30 minutes, you are done. I've never known how to categorize those. I've never known how to absorb those experiences, and so I've never really been a fan of them. On the other hand, with ayahuasca, I've almost always done it as part of the jungle, not apart from the jungle. So to do it means I'm going to go upriver a couple of days, during which time I'm going to get quiet. Then I might get to Julio's house, and he might say, well, I can make ayahuasca, but not until I fix the floor. So then I have to help him fix the floor for 2 days, and then we get around. By that time, I'm ready for it, and it's ready for me. I think I wouldn't denigrate DMT experience, but I wouldn't think for me it would be the same, because I could do one of them in the afternoon when I start cooking dinner once the rice is on, and just like do it and get this immense download. But for me, it's very confusing download. Whereas the other one, I need to get quiet and spend days, getting quiet and then coming out of it. So they're very different. They're both wonderful. For me, I choose the ayahuasca.
Well, the one thing I do know about smoking DMT, I think I know this, in doing ayahuasca, the DMT doesn't make you puke on Julio's floor. True?
Right.
Right. Okay. A couple other things. We're running out of time, and I think we're getting about to get going here, actually. A couple of quick things here. It says a healer to become a shaman, which herbs are best medicines to use to heal? Peter, I know for a fact that when you are asked to help individuals, you go to a place that's like a market. And do you think in a couple of minutes you can explain to us the market and the exceptional things that happen when these people jump up and tell you which herbs to use as medicine?
Okay, everybody, hold on to your seats. One of the things that someone like Julio was able to do, for instance, when I had the cancer patient, was to see which particular plant might help her and might reduce the tumors so that she could live for a while longer. I have no such grasp of the botanical, the botany of the forest. I know a few plants. I don't know what Julio knew. He grew up there. He knew every plant. I don't. So years ago, I was being told by somebody I'm going to call a friend, kind of a spirit, or they seem to be a spirit because I have to compartmentalize them so I can understand them. And they said, well, you need to learn the plants tonight. And I said, well, I don't know the plants. This is silly. And she said, come here. She took me up to a place that looked like a huge market, it might have been in the Bronx somewhere, just a great big market where everybody had open-air stalls. And it was just filled with boxes of dried plant material, fresh plant material. And she walked me around it, and she said, well, this is where you get your medicines when you need medicines. And I said, well, I don't even know what these are. If they were growing, I don't know what 3/4 of them are. Now that they're dried and there's just bark and leaves, she said, shh, just call out the name of a sickness. And I said, what do you mean? She said, just call out the name of a sickness. And I think I said something like, pneumonia. Instantly, 2 or 3 plants jumped up and shouted out, vitamin C, cayenne pepper. I mean, things that you might use for, maybe I said flu. And so, incredible as it seems, once in a while, now I don't really have the juice at all, but it doesn't mean the juice is not accessible to me. Okay? And I think that's what Lynn means when he calls me a shaman, but I'm not a shaman. I think Julio had the juice. I think in my case, it's something like if you're called on and it's needed and it's not for selfish purposes. I mean, somebody calls me out of the blue and says, you don't know me, but I have this kind of life and I need some healing. If it's appropriate, I will ask those friends, guys, can you take me to the plant market? And I will shout out what the person said they needed. And they will shout out answers, and they're often plants I have never heard of. And I come out of that momentary trance, and I write down the names of the things I heard. And before I'll pass them on, I'll look them up and see if there's anything that would be connected. And it's always right on the money. It's a very incredible system. I don't understand that technology. How would I know how to access a place where plants tell me how to use them to heal people I don't know who have illnesses or symptoms I've never heard of? And it works. That's where we go back to it. It's magic. Because we don't know why it works. But we will.
And again, a personal story that has to do with Peter's market. I have a family member who has a pretty serious immune system condition, and I asked Peter one time if he knew anything that he could do to help. Actually, it's my oldest daughter, and Peter said when he was at the market one time that something jumped up and said collard greens. She needs to eat collard greens. And, of course, I told my daughter that I really believed in this information and to try eating collard greens. And she somehow seemed to feel she needed to eat pounds of it instead of a few a day. Later, Peter got the information to tell your daughter she needs to eat the collard greens, but she only needs 1 or 2 leaves a day. She doesn't need to eat pounds a day. I'm not sure how he would know that. When he was at that market that he was just talking about, the spirits came back and told him to ask her to add fennel or fennel oil. to her diet in order to adjust her problems. So to me, it is extraordinary. And those are the kinds of things that, as a scientist, I'm quite sure that I am watching very carefully to see if we can prove that the information that Peter has brought back to pass along to my family and to other families are actually helping them. And I can tell you that so far I've actually seen positive results. Let's see. I've been asked to remind you folks as we're winding down here in the last couple of minutes that next Monday evening at 8 o'clock we are going to be having another of our epic programs with Lynn, and I think most of you probably have heard her, and she's extraordinary and a good friend of mine. So next Sunday, remember that we have Epic Radio. Also, I want to remind you that my friend Peter Gorman has written an extraordinary book called Ayahuasca in My Blood, 25 Years of Medicine Dreaming. And you can reach Peter directly at petergorman.com. And he actually does these tours. I know, because 12 years ago I took one, and it changed my life. Peter, Madalena, this has been an extraordinary time, and I hope we've enlightened some folks, and I hope we have brought a little magic and technology we don't understand yet into other people's lives. Peter, any closing thoughts?
No, just thanks for having me. Keep your eyes open, everybody. This world is a whole lot bigger than it seems.
Well, thank you so much tonight from Inception Radio Network and Epic Radio. This is Lynn Chilson, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Please join us again next Monday evening for Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council's Epic Voyages. I'm Roger Peacock for Epic. Until next time.